Hello everyone, this is Dr. Shijun Wang. Today I am going to open up a brand new series of the complete Chopin ballades. I am going to start today with number 1, and then after this piece I will continue with number 4. So the first 2 are the hardest, and then I will finish up with number 3 and number 2. And I do not know how many episodes I need. Probably just number 1 alone, I probably need 5 or 6 episodes, because not only I am here focusing on the technical aspects, my main focus is music making. And of course, anything with music making comes to some personal preferences and personal understanding, even with my personal experience, life experiences. So I am really happy to communicate with all of you. I'm kind of revealing everything I think without any reservation. But if you disagree, I really welcome a polite or like a very healthy conversation between professional musicians. And if you are students and you like some of my ideas, and if watching these tutorials can make your music making more vivid, more touching, then I will be really, really glad. Well, I've known Chopin ballades since when I was maybe 10 or 11. So I've been with them for over 20 plus years. Um, I think only recently, maybe the past 5 or 6 years, you hear people start talking about these ballad as closely associated with the balladi by Mickiewicz, the also Polish but poet, the same as Chopin, who after the country was invaded, moved to Paris and was really kind of like the idol for Polish people, right? Kind of writing a lot of poems to encourage to keep the morale of the Polish spirit. And this piece, people say it's closely related to Konrad Wallenrad. It talks about this hero that sacrificed himself and died in the war, and of course with complicated life. Right? He was raised by the enemies, and myself, I really feel hesitant to share these with my students because Chopin really isn't very happy of associating his music with stories. And many times he complained that Liszt always make up stories and associate that story with his pieces. Well, we know Liszt wrote Dante sonatas, right? We know Liszt wrote so many symphonic poems. Like his inspiration really comes from literature, right? He has a very clear idea of the stories that which part is associated with which part of the music is associated with the story. Chopin is quite the opposite. So, well, on one hand, knowing those poems, knowing those stories might help the students to get to know these pieces better, but we don't, I really personally think it's silly to think, oh, measure 15 means this, and measure 35 means that. We should not have that kind of a detailed storyline associated with this. After all, this is music, and the beauty of music is that really people have different ideas about them. Okay, so it starts with largo passante. Passante means heavy, and largo, of course, means slow. And I picture this as like the beginning of a big show. You see this one old man in the dark telling us what's going to happen, right? Long, long ago, there was a story talking about this hero. So, um, such a great opening. Right? It lead us right into the mood. Um, First of all, when we see two hands playing the same notes but octave apart, we can always choose which one we want to emphasize more, right? Or maybe we want them to be equal. But in this case, I think, of course, we have to have the pedal down before we even play the first C, left hand more to show that feeling of the passante. And gradually to the right hand. And please carefully observe this silence. And suddenly we see two groups of triplets. And I do think the da 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 is more desperate, and then the da da is more hopeless, right? Clearly, it's a pair in the rhythmic pattern, in the melodic shape. It really tells us these two are a pair, but please don't repeat them with the same mood. And next one, after 3 whole beat of rest, a diminuendo on one note. What does that tell us? Chopin really wants us to emphasize that note. Not with volume, but to hear that, to lessen that note towards the end. And how do I do a crescendo from G to B flat? Clearly, the answer is not softer G, more B flat. That doesn't mean much, right? It's really two separate notes. But we have to create a delusion of the G getting louder and louder to going to B flat. Left hand is our help. And of course, right? Many things in art really are delusions, right? We watch movie, but really the beginning of that really it's not anything but many pictures moving in very fast speed. So it creates that delusion that there's one person moving in the pictures. So here, with the left hand help, we create that. And of course, with a lot of imagination. We have to mentally and physically sing that note to make sure it goes to the top. And this B flat is quite interesting. It has two identities. One is the end of the largo section. The other is the beginning of the moderato section. And it's tied. So the first part, with left hand, with pedal, with a slower tempo. But when we reach the beginning of the moderato, we have to lift our pedal and of course no left hand. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and counting the last part of this B flat in the new tempo. And here, again, we want to create long, everlasting phrases. We don't want it to be cut into too many smaller pieces, right? My teacher at Eastman, Nalita Chu, she often criticized my playing by saying, in such a poetical way, Shijun, you're stopping the car and trying to smell every single rose along the street. Really, that's a really nice way of telling me you stop too many times, you stop too often. So whenever I play this part, I really ask myself to not stop, not stop. Okay, and the trick I use is to think of this G. Of course, the G is the end of the previous phrase, but it also can be functioned as the beginning of the next phrase. Yeah, almost like that B flat, right? It has double identity. So and almost always this starts with a very short eighth note rest. It gives us this urgent feeling, but only in measure 14. Chopin stopped doing that, right? I'm going to play from measure 12. Right, we go. We go directly to here. So I think if we think about this as two measures, and there are four of them in the first big sentence, the big phrase, then between 3 and 4, Chopin wanted to be connected. And one last point of this section is here. Please make sure they are even, right? In time, in articulation, of course, in volume too. I've heard so many students playing, right? Almost like that second note has a long tail. Of course, that has everything to do with the pedal. And also, yes, they should not overpower the right hand melody, but here, boom, 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 is part of the music making, right? You have to be really careful, and people call this heartbeat, right? It's kind of this heavy feeling to it, and I quite like that idea. Measure 22, starting there, your left hand has a contra melody. And here, when we start to call it a melody or something, a second voice, we have to give it a shape. We have to phrase it, shape it. Otherwise, if we just pound every note, it's not a second melody. It's really melody has to have shapes. You know? And left hand becomes more and more active. And here with this shaping, right? If Chopin continues, right, it's really to build up something really majestic, and this is really hopeful, right? We're going somewhere great. Even the right hand, right? Both hands are really towards something that is up, growing. Suddenly, in measure 29, a sudden drop. And if we watch the melodic pattern and the rhythmic pattern closely, and they're really the same, right? One higher, one lower. So again, the same thing, like, and it's a pair. But then Chopin wanted a but in between these. So they're really, you're saying the same words, you're saying the same things, but with a different attitude. One hopeful, and the other almost depressed, hopeless. But now we're going to this A major. And here, why suddenly Chopin put smaller prints? I think this is really associated with his understanding of vocal music. And here, you're singing with your heavy, true voice, deep voice. And here, almost like you're using portamento. Yeah? It adds color, and I think in this part, the piano coloration really, it's a great showcase for that. And again, colors or tones are associated with mood. So here again, sincere, something different, beautiful, yeah. A second voice. Finally, we're in G minor. Okay, of course the music goes on, but then that's a big stop where we can end today's video. And I want to thank all of my subscribers and all of the viewers. Without your support, I would never imagine me doing this every week, and this really becomes part of my life, and I really enjoy having this communication with all of you. So if you want to give me suggestions, if you want to comment on this content, on my understanding of the ballad, and of course I especially welcome if you disagree with anything I said, and let's discuss it, let's try to convince me. And again, if you are a student and you want to send me a short clips of your playing, you're welcome to do so. I will put my personal email below the video, and if I have enough of student responses, then I will eventually make a video comment on the students' videos. Thank you for your support, and I will continue with Chopin First Ballade next week. See you then.